Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tavern Adjacent. It's been a nice, chill week for me over here in my one-bedroom apartment, but we're back, and honestly, we've got some good stuff to talk about. So we are going to be continuing our Burnout discussion because I saw some stuff on Twitter that honestly kind of annoyed me. Some bad takes, to say the least, about Burnout, and I actually posted about this, but since I have like 0 Twitter followers, I decided, you know what, instead of posting about this, let's talk about it on the podcast, because I actually could get the word out there. And then after that, we are going to talk about, well, we're going to talk about Flea Mortals again. And at this point, I know we've already talked about Flea Mortals. I've shouted out Flea Mortals from Matt Colville many times, but this time, I'm going to do a deep dive into why I love what he's done with this book so far from my experience using it in 2 campaigns. And then finally, we are going to be ending off with a single voicemail, because this voicemail is asking for a story from me, and it's quite a long story to say the least. So without further ado, guys, let's get started. Alright, so this is going to be a pretty short segment, but I just want to talk about Burnout in the TTRPG world again, because I saw some takes on Twitter that were pretty bad. And I know, my bad, going on Twitter for any sort of takes. And this is a pretty, Twitter take. It's something stated with such confidence, but without much substance to it, and it's pretty much something that you would only expect to see on the glorious, wonderful platform of Twitter. But anyway, the idea is that essentially I have seen a lot, maybe not a lot, but enough that I notice people saying oh, well, there are certain play styles where you're going to get burnt out, but if you play in these other play styles that I like, then there will be no problem whatsoever. Or also, if you play these games that I like, you'll never get burnt out, no problem. Which is terrible. Terrible take. The idea of, you're playing wrong right now, but here, let me show you how to play right and you'll never get burnt out again. That's the exact opposite of what I think is causing a lot of this burnout in the first place. If you remember, our last podcast episode, we talked about burnout, and I got a really positive reception to this. So I like to think that signifies at least, that this is something that is out there. It's not just me. There are other people who experience this. I'm not saying that everyone experiences this, but, it is out there. And the problem that I see a lot is that people want to be good at what they do, and they push themselves to do that in a way that can breed toxicity for their own lives. And that sounds really extreme, but essentially what I'm saying is, in our pursuit to be good DMs, we can forget what it means to have fun, There are times where there are skills that I think would be valuable. Like, for example, learning to make geographically accurate maps, yeah, that could be a really cool skill. Learning to make encounters for really high-level parties, that could be a valuable skill. Voice acting, sure, that could be a valuable skill. But at the end of the day, are those skills required for every single game? No, they're not. There are a lot of skills that are not required for every single game. Could they be learned, and could they improve your games? Sure, they could. They could, but they are not a guarantee, yes, this is required thing, because the vast majority of things are not required. I think in our desire to be good game masters, good dungeon masters, we can push ourselves too far, and that leads to burnout. All that matters is you find stuff that means that you have fun. Making geographically accurate maps would not make my game more fun, so therefore it's not a skill that I prioritize. But voice acting, that's something I want to learn. Learning to play these NPCs, these characters, play them better and give them more varied personas, I think that would be very fun for me in my game. So that's a skill that I kind of build into and that I learn. So yeah, I think that's what causes burnout. What causes burnout for a lot of people is feeling like they need to embrace all these different styles, embrace all these different talents, when at the end of the day, you just need to figure out what matters to you. Your play style, the thing that you enjoy. That's what matters. Here, we're seeing the solution to burnout being, no. You need to do specifically these things, play specifically these styles, and play specifically these games, and therefore, burnout will stop, which is idiotic. I even saw people saying that burnout is specific to DnD 5e, like it's specifically a DnD 5e problem. As if Burnout is like arose from only 5e and nothing else, which is the most Twitter thing I've ever read in my life. Like, it's say it with such confidence, yet it's so blatantly stupid. Burnout is a term that originates for doctors and lawyers. Like, for God's sakes, at a baseline there, that should showcase how universal burnout can be. Because being a doctor and being a lawyer are not interchangeable positions. They're very different. That should showcase to you that burnout is something that affects a lot of different people in different ways, you know? Like, I'm a huge fan of Destiny. I think a lot of you already know that. But I got burnt out on Destiny, like, multiple times. I got burnt out during Season of Plunder, like, just a couple months ago. I got burnt out during Curse of Osiris, like, a couple of years ago. I got burnt out during the content drought of The Taken King, even more years ago. Like, yeah, that burnt me out. Destiny's a game I love very dearly. But because I played it a lot and there was pressure to do a lot of stuff in that game, I got burnt out. That happens. People get burnt out on content creation constantly on YouTube, on Twitch, whatever. That happens too. The idea that burnout is specific to D&D is just so elegantly stupid. Honestly, there's a part of me that's a little bit jealous somebody could transcend our mortal understanding of idiocy and truly achieve something special. But yeah, no, it's not exclusive to 5e. It's not exclusive to anything. If you stop playing 5e, that might solve your burnout. Like, if you play different games, that could help you. But that's not the solution for everybody. Sometimes the solution isn't playing other games. Sometimes the solution is just taking a break. Sometimes the solution is just not playing TTRPGs in general for a little bit. Like, a big thing that's helped me, is playing video games with my D&D party. We play Minecraft together now. We play Minecraft together, like, every few weeks. Like, you know, sometimes I don't have a session prep. Sometimes I don't have time to prep a game, and that means we all get online, and instead of playing D&D, we play Minecraft. And you know what? That's great. That's awesome. You know, we didn't stop. We didn't cancel. We didn't quit. We just took a break. And that's often the solution to burnout, is taking a break. You know, it doesn't matter what game you're playing. Burnout will happen to you if you push it too far. If you do something too much and you don't take enough breaks, burnout can absolutely happen. Like, again, happens a lot with tons of different video games that I play. Like, I haven't played Apex Legends in a long time because of very similar pressure that I sometimes feel when being a dungeon master for D&D. Like, the pressure to be better, to get better in Apex burnt me out. It burnt me out very quickly because Apex is a competitive game. But, you know, at least with Apex, there's a competitive element. D&D is not competitive at all. You're working together with your other players. But I think because the community with D&D is so big, there's so many different people and there's so much talking. Like, there's a lot of people talking about D&D, which is great. I think that's a good thing, but it can lead to a bad thing where we're all talking about how we can improve our games and we all feel the pressure to do everything all at once. When that's impossible, you can't do that. The idea that if you just play certain styles, if you play styles that I like, burnout will be solved is ridiculous. That is the reason burnout happens. We try to force people into specific niches, force people to do things that they may not find fun. Like, that's not good. We need to encourage people to find their own styles of play. You're not opening up their minds to new things by trying to force them to learn specific styles or learn specific games. That's not helping. We need to celebrate everyone's play styles, not just play styles that we enjoy. I think that you guys here at Crispy's Tavern already understand that. I think you guys get that because we've already talked about this many times. And this isn't coming from you guys. This isn't something that I got from the comment section of my podcast. This is something I got from some Twitter rando, you know? So I think that you guys already got this. But I thought it was something worth talking about because it's a take I saw way too much for what it was. It's something so blatantly silly that I saw multiple times. And you know what? I think that warrants talking about. But I think you guys already get this. We need to celebrate everyone's styles of play. We need to encourage people to find their own style of play. And you know what? We need to be more open to accepting that we're not going to perfect every single talent all the time. You know, there are certain skills that I just think I'm never going to have time to learn. But that's not a bad thing. You know, not every skill is required to make my game fun. All you need to do, the only requirement that you need to fulfill is having fun with your fellow players. Don't let anyone tell you that you need to play specific styles so that you have fun or need to play specific styles so you avoid burnout. Because that is BS. You avoid burnout by taking breaks and by taking care of yourself, not by forcing yourself to play in a way that someone else tells you, some Twitter rando, all right? Fuck those Twitter randos. That's my one curse word for this YouTube video. Seriously, bugger off. Don't listen to them. Play the way you want to. As long as you're having fun, That's all that matters, right? So yeah, there you go. With that being said, I think it's time to move on to something that I'm not trying to, I just talked about how, everyone needs to find their own style, but I want to passively encourage. Obviously, this isn't something that you need, but I think it's something that you might be interested in. Something that's really helped my own game and helped me find my own style when it comes to running 5e specifically. FLEA Mortals by Matt Colville. In my opinion, the best thing to happen to my D&D game since a long time, to be honest. It's damn good, and I want to talk about it more in depth. So without further ado, let's get into that. FLEA Mortals. Oh my god. So I have talked about FLEA Mortals a lot. It came up during the Bob World Builder episode where we had Bob on the show, and that was a lot of fun. And I was proselytizing the great power of Matt Colville's Monster Manual. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I don't actually own the official Monster book. In fact, I haven't bought any D&D books since this one. I think this is one of the only ones I've ever bought. The others were gifts that were given to me because my friends and family knew I was big into Dungeons & Dragons, and they were like, let's get them the books. I told them eventually to, stop that because I have enough books at this point. This is the only one I've ever bought, and I bought it for review purposes, and I never ended up making the review. If you want a TLDR of what I would have said, very good. Good adventure book. Very well designed. Good job, Matt Mercer. Good book. But anyway, Matt Mercer's work aside, let's talk about Matt Colville's work. Matt Colville's FLEA Mortals is a book that I bought on Kickstarter and I use constantly. I regret heavily. I very much regret not getting the physical copy of the book and only buying the PDF because, damn, this is so good. So essentially what Matt Colville's done is he's taken his action-oriented monster design philosophy where you give monsters more to do in combat, and he's turned it up to 11, creating a huge monster manual of hundreds of creatures. It's not out yet. We're only halfway through it. He's releasing it piecemeal. So if you pre-order now, you can get 60% of the book immediately, or at least get the important bits. There's no fancy decorations. I kind of think of it as a Geometry Dash level before the creator puts in all the deco. It's just bare bones, just the stat blocks, just the basic lore, nothing fancy yet. But frankly, as a dungeon master, I really don't care about this kind of thing. About that kind of thing, as I don't really care about that kind of thing. This is a gorgeous book. It's really, really cool. I love the way Called Netherdeep is designed. I love the art. It's great looking book. But the reason I like this book isn't because of the art. I like this book because it has good content in it. And the same goes for FLEA Mortals. Right now, there's no decoration, at least so far. There's definitely going to be art and deco all over the book when it releases. But right now, that's not the priority. The priority is finishing up the stats, and that is what matters to me. So yeah, there you go. If you pre-order now, you get the stat blocks, or at least 60% of the stat blocks. And damn it, Matt Colville has outdone himself, and I'm really sad that we're probably not going to get another one of these things ever. I'm sad that this is going to be the only FLEA Mortals book. I don't think he's going to make a second one for 5e, which sucks, but at the same time, I think that's going to either encourage me to just play his TTRPG, because I think the MCDM TTRPG could be really good, even though it's probably going to still take place in my same D&D based universe. I'd play his game just because the mechanics that he's showcased in this FLEA Mortals book are so strong. Or B, it could also just encourage me to design my own creatures using this as a template, which I've already done multiple times. But anyway, we'll get into that. So first and foremost, what does this book do differently? Well, it introduces traits for basically all of the creatures. All the creatures now have some kind of trait that makes them unique in combat. For example, human enemies, which, by the way, is something that I've wanted in 5e more often for forever. More human enemies, different classes, fight against warlocks and priests and clerics and all that great stuff. I said priest because I've been on a WoW kick recently, sorry. Warlocks, clerics, druids, fighters, etc. Have human or elven stat blocks in 5e. How have we not gotten that yet? But yeah, they're here. We have human enemies. They can get advantage on their attacks automatically once per turn, for example. They get advantage on one of their attacks because they are good at determining weak points, because they're very, they're a species with a lot of endurance, right? That's the idea. That's the fantasy. And through that advantage, they get to take advantage of other things in their toolkit. For example, example, there is a human assassin character that can, when they have advantage on attack, they get bonus damage. So once per turn, they basically guarantee bonus damage on an attack. But if, for example, another human trapper like ensnares a player character, that human assassin can get tons of bonus damage because all their attacks would be at advantage. You know, that's the cool little synergies that Matt Colville builds, because there's a bunch of different human enemies, a bunch of different orcish enemies, a bunch of different gnoll enemies. Each species has a bunch of different classes, which is something 5e does, and I love it when they do that. There is, I believe, in Volos, maybe it might be in Mordenkainen's, but I'm pretty sure it's in Volos, like a ton of different types of gnolls. I want that more. Like if in 1D&D they ever do a monster manual, which hopefully is the next thing they're working on, I want there to be multiple different versions of the same creature with a bunch of different synergies, so that when we throw gnolls at the player characters, it's not just a bunch of the same enemy. We can have like a party of gnolls that all synergize in different ways, which is what Matt Colville's done with FLEA Mortals, and it works really well. These traits give, each enemy a specific identity, but also on top of that, each enemy can also have reactions and bonus actions, giving them more to do in combat. So now enemies can be more proactive. There's also the minion rules. A lot of people were asking me what the minions in Shadow over Carconos were. Basically, minions are 1 hit point enemies. I can throw swarms of them at the player characters without any problem because they only have 1 hit points. Now, if they only have 1 hit point if they get hit by an attack or they fail a saving throw. If they succeed a saving throw, there's still a chance they could survive. So, yeah, there you go. If you throw out a fireball, you're not guaranteed to wipe out like a whole, radius of zombies. They can still absolutely survive if they succeed their saving throws. But frankly, if you roll like super high damage in that fireball, you may very well kill every single zombie in that radius. It just adds a little bit more chance there. But yeah, these minions are really cool. It allows you to get that fantasy of, in the Avengers movie where they're killing like tons upon tons of Chitauri soldiers, in basically all the Marvel movies, there's always like these faceless bad guys for the heroes to mow down. Lord of the Rings does a very similar thing, like tons and tons of orcs for our heroes to mow down. A lot of times you don't get that fancy in D&D, because if you do that, you're going to need to roll to attack, you're going to need to deal with hit points. Like if the player character like rolls low damage, there's a chance that the minion could survive. But here, no chance for the minion to survive. If you hit, it dies. That's it. That's the end of the story. I like it a lot because I can throw like 15 zombies at the party, and it's not going to be a slog. If anything, it's going to be fun. Now, usually you want minions to be accompanied by something else, and that's where those aforementioned action-oriented monsters come in. A lot of their talents can synergize. Like right now, I'm building an encounter with a death cultist that can, when a minion goes down, they can resurrect it using a bonus action. But of course, it can only be resurrected once. So, it allows this death cultist to create and maintain small armies to fight the player characters. He can also like siphon life from some of his minions. So, it incentivizes the players to take care of his minions quickly and to keep them down. I like this. I like it a lot. It's a really cool little thing that these minions and action-oriented monsters can do. Synergize with each other, create more dynamic and interesting encounters. I could rant about this for forever. If you want to see this in use, you can check out Shadow of Carconos and my future D&D podcast that's in the works, probably going to premiere in April, March, somewhere around there. It's going to be a little bit, but it's in the works. I promise, guys. I've got some cool stuff coming. But yeah, if you want something that's already out, Shadow over Carconos, I use minion rules throughout the entire show. So if you want a good example of sometimes janky use of these rules, then yeah, there you go. It's right there in Shadow over Carconos. On top of that, you also have villain actions, which at this point are just legendary actions. Like, I thought that the difference between villain actions and legendary actions were that villain actions could only be taken in order. So you have to use villain action 1, then villain action 2, then villain action 3. You can't use 3 first. You have to take them in order. I read somewhere that that's not the case. Like, I was reading recently, I was going through I read the book recently, like 2 days ago, so maybe I'm just misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that I'm wrong on that case. I might be just completely misremembering, but in any case, that's usually actually how I just do it anyway, because usually the villain actions do escalate not all of them do, but like sometimes the first villain action will be like a basic damage thing. The second villain action will be some kind of movement based thing. And then the third villain action will be an all out major like world shattering attack that really threatens the player characters and changes the whole dynamic of the combat and makes everything a lot more risky. So usually there is some kind of escalation, and doing 3 first, like, yeah, that can work, but it can also be kind of silly. And I actually made that mistake. I actually regret taking the third villain action first because it was too much. It was too much, and it kind of made the combat feel more janky just because having a villain unleash some kind of crazy powerful attack first thing can be kind of a bummer for the players to get like down to so many hit points immediately upon entering combat. Though sometimes it could be a fun surprise. I mean, like if you've played Undertale, you know that Sans unleashes one of his most powerful attacks right away in the first part of the battle, and that's fun. But then again, in Undertale, you can respawn infinitely. In D&D, you cannot do that. So yeah, there's definitely a big difference there. In any case, I think there are some drawbacks to these more in-depth monster stat blocks. For example, there's more reading. There's a lot of reading with these monster stat blocks. Also, to my knowledge, there are no 5e spells used for any of these creatures. There are no spells used for any of them. None of them use a spell list. So that I think is really cool because, frankly, if I wanted to give these monster spells, I could just do it myself. Like, it's not that complicated to say, oh, this monster gets, Firebolt. Like, that's not hard to do at all. But, the fact that Coville gave them more in-depth talents, that's something that is more difficult. Like, writing your own spells from scratch is objectively more difficult than just giving spells that already exist. And I really like that he did that. In terms of challenge rating, I think with these monsters, even more so than with base 5e, challenge rating is BS. Completely BS. I think that the challenge rating for the vast majority of these creatures is wildly off. Like, insanely out of sync. Like, some CR5 monster can pose a legitimate threat to, like, a level 7, level 6 party. I think it also depends on the amount of players. Like, I think they're an appropriate threat for my party of 5 to 6 in my home game, but for my stream games where I have 3 players, it's very different. Like, obviously that changes drastically, but I think here, because of the increased number of talents and because of the way minions can also threaten player characters in battle, because of that, I think here, challenge rating is even more just completely irrelevant. Honestly, I think I can legitimately threaten players with much lower CR monsters. Like, I throw hordes of CR2 and minions with CR1 at a party of level 11, and they still do decent damage to the players, and there's still a lot of tension in that battle, which shocked me when I did it. But yeah, it was with my home game where I have 5 player characters. It was just minions and then CR2 and CR3 monsters, and it was a legit challenge. It was like a lot. And the players were like actually, had to like plan out a lot with these creatures. And I thought that was great. I thought that was really cool. Also, these talents that Matt Coville gives these creatures are really easy to reskin and shuffle around. Like, just because there's such a sheer amount of attacks and reactions and bonus actions and traits and villain actions, you can just shuffle them around to a bunch of different creatures to create your own monsters. It's almost like modular building without writing your own from scratch. I'm sure you can do that with base 5e monsters in the monster manual, but with the FLEA Morals creatures, it's like shockingly easy to do. Like, I just take villain actions from one thing, move it over to another thing, and, shuffle around some traits, some bonus actions, some reactions, and I have something brand new, entirely not necessarily made by me, because I just took some already existing stuff and shuffled it, but still, some brand new monster to challenge my players, and it was easy as, it took me 5 minutes. It was great. I love this book. It's so, so good. In terms of lore and story, I'm not really invested in Matt Coville's world. I'm sorry, I'm not. I've run in my own homebrew world for years now, and I don't really see myself stopping that, just because my homebrew world is still in progress. It's still in flux. I'm still building it, and I'm still invested in it. I am still absolutely invested in Eris, in Taldria, in Aora, in these continents that I've made, in these cultures I've created, in these gods I've crafted. That means that I don't really feel investment when I see lore in something else. That's a big reason why stuff like that's a big reason why I never ended up making a video about this, because even though I really like this, I really like Exandria, Matt Mercer's world, and I really like the stuff in this book, I didn't feel that same connection with it that I just feel with my own stuff, you know? So I never ended up like finishing reading this, and I never ended up finishing that video about it, just because like in terms of settings, like I will always just prefer my own homebrew stuff. That's not like a good or bad thing. I'm not saying that I'm better. I'm not. I just enjoy what I enjoy, you know? And that's the same thing here with FLEA Mortals lore. Like, some of it is really cool, some of it interests me, but like again, I'm here for the stats. I'm here for the monsters. That's what this book is for, and the monsters are phenomenal. Like, seriously, my combats have gotten 10,000 times better. I've had one dud combat in 4 months. One. That's it. And it was with FLEA Mortals creatures, but mostly just because my encounter design was terrible in that moment. You know, I had tons of minions, but I didn't supplement them with anything more. So my players were just spamming ray of fire, or what's it called again? It's the one that shoots out 3 bolts of flame. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name. I've heard it like 1,000 times, but the spell that shoots out 3 bolts of fire, they were just spamming that to down minions, because obviously, you know, that's 3 different attacks. If you hit all 3 of them, you could hit 3 different minions and kill them all instantly. Boom, easy peasy. So yeah, there are times where minions just can get just absolutely pwned, but there are other times where they could be serious threats to the players if you supplement them with other stuff, and I forgot to do that supplementing, and that was on me. Like, I completely messed up there. That was my bad. But I mean, the fact that I've had 1 dud combat in 4 months when I'm running 1 to 2 games a week is crazy. That's how good these monsters are. And I really recommend picking up this book. It truly has revolutionized my game. And even though there's a lot of reading, there's way more reading when it comes to Matt Colville's stat blocks, just because there's more stuff to read through. But guys, I totally recommend it. It's 100% worth it. Pick up this book, okay? I know that it's very unlikely that he'll make another one, but frankly, I think that because of the way this book is designed, like I said earlier, it's really easy to make your own monsters. I think that this teaches a really cool design philosophy that fixes the biggest issue I have with Dungeons and Dragons right now, which is boring monster encounters. These make encounters so much more fun. My players look forward to combat so much more because of this, and I love running the game because of this book. So yeah, pick up FLEA Mortals. This book is simply excellent. And yeah, there you go. Also look forward to my next D&D podcast, because we're going to be using entirely FLEA Mortals creatures. And trust me, guys, those combats get intense. Like, you thought Shower over Carconos was crazy? Good God. Like, my next campaign is going to keep you on the edge of your seat, to say the least. So look forward to that. But anyway, we've been talking about the good aspects of my games for a while. Let's talk about that one horror story, the one really bad horror story that I've had. Because it continued. It continued. And it got to levels that I never thought it would go. But anyway, we have one voicemail, and it's a voicemail asking me about that story, so let's get into it. Alright, so... Sorry, moving the mic a little bit. Sorry about the noise. But let's start off with the voicemail that got me through this whole path of thinking. So let's hear that first.
Hi, Crispy. I've been a long-time fan of your work, as well as Crick Crab's work. I just wanted to know that you guys seem like you're talented DMs nowadays, but since you guys are, the deliverers of, cringe horror stories, I have to ask, do you guys have any cringe horror stories of your involvement that you did at all?
Pretty simple question. Obviously came from the Crispy Crick Crab collab announcement. Sorry, Crab is not here, but you can hear his horror story. Oh my God, what is wrong with me today? His horror story is linked in the cards. So yeah, you can check that out if you want to. It's on my old Roll for Insight show. Haven't said that in a while, but yeah, there you go. You can check that out. All right. It's time to talk about my horror story, though. So this is actually a continuation. I will summarize the first part, but you can check out the whole thing in my 10,000 subscriber special. It's been so long. We're already almost at 40,000. So this is kind of like a full circle moment. But yeah, back when I hit 10K subscribers, excuse me, I did a video where I talked about my horror story and kind of the origin story of this channel. And that's linked if you want to check that out. But quick summary, basically, in my first ever game, which was Curse of Strahd, because of course it was Curse of Strahd. What else would it be? Obviously it was Curse of Strahd. I had a problem player who played Wizard, who had a few game issues, in-game and out-of-game. Main character syndrome, hated losing a lot, couldn't take feedback or criticism, kind of just bounced right off his skin. He was kind of a prick. He was kind of a jerk. And that wasn't immediately obvious, but as the game progressed, the other players really soured towards him. Some players were even just not coming to sessions because they didn't want to be near the guy. And I, as a new Dungeon Master, just didn't know how to handle this. I mean, the biggest problem was the fact that he couldn't take losses and couldn't take criticism, because when someone can't take criticism, it's hard for me to deliver it. And yeah, it made everything really awkward and bad. But eventually, I was just like, okay, we're done. I restarted the campaign without him. I just did not want to have this person in my life anymore. They were becoming very, very toxic outside the game too. And I just did not want to have this person in my life anymore. And that was that. We went our separate ways, and that was the end of the story. Up until a couple months ago, that is. So a couple months ago, this person... Well, here, let me do a little bit of drama. I believe I went through the events in my head. I don't remember exactly what I was doing. I know I was writing something, but at this point I had quit my other job. So I'm pretty sure I was just doing some freelance stuff. So I was doing some freelance stuff, I think. And while I was working, I get a message on Instagram, a DM on Instagram, which is weird. On my private Instagram, like, I don't really know who would be messaging me. But I just thought, oh, did someone get hacked? Who got hacked? Who is sending me scam messages now? So I went to my messenger, and it's not a hack. It's not someone sending me scam messages. It's this guy. It's Wizard reaching out to me, and he's saying, "Hey, been a while." Here, let me pull. I need to pull up the messages because I don't want to like forget anything. But he's like, "Oh, hey, been a while. I saw that your videos are getting 30K views now. Congrats on that. And how are you? How are you doing?" And I did not know how to react to that. Now, this is a message. He sent this message at like 8 in the morning. And at this point, it was like 10, I think. It was a couple hours later. I don't remember the exact time, obviously. This was a couple months ago. But it was a few hours later. And I looked at that message and went, okay. What am I going to do with this information? This is a person who kind of sucked. You know, they weren't like a horrible, awful, irredeemable human being, but you know, I did not wish to have them in my life any longer because, you know, they were kind of toxic, you know? They were kind of a jerk. So, yeah, I didn't really know what to do with this. Like, how should I respond? I was in the middle of a project. Again, I think, doing freelance stuff. So I was like, all right, let me finish this. You know, I have a deadline, so let me finish this, and we'll get back to this later. So I basically, in summary, left him on red. And keep in mind, like, he sent that message like a couple hours before that. But within like 10 seconds of me leaving him on red, he's already writing up his replies. And oh my God, holy crap. Like, dude, I was gonna say something. I just had some work to do. But anyway, he reaches out again and says like, yeah, by the way, sorry about feeling, I feel bad and petty for bringing this up literally years after we last saw each other. But I need to get it off my chest about this whole D&D thing. I know you didn't want me to return, and I still have no clue why. It hurt like hell. Put in a bunch more F-bombs in that sentence because unfortunately I can't curse anymore on this podcast. I already used my one curse word earlier. Damn it. So just while I'm talking, just imagine a couple more F words, and then you got it. There you go. But he talks about a bunch of like social stuff because we were friends outside of the game, and I stopped being friends with him outside the game. I was no longer friends with him, along with many of our other friends who did not wish to hang out with him anymore. And he did not like that. Clearly, he did not like that. So my immediate response to him saying all this is, first, I understand. Like, I get why this person is upset. It sucks when people aren't your friend anymore. At the same time, I have to say, I don't owe him my friendship at all. You don't have an entitlement to be in someone else's life. No one is entitled to be in your lives either, viewers out there. If somebody hurts you, if somebody is toxic, you are not required to keep them in your life out of some kind of loyalty, right? Like, you don't need to be loyal to people if they are no longer kind to you. Think of everyone. Everyone has their own planet over their head, And all of our planets have a bit of pollution, some more than others. And it's okay to help somebody with their pollution, but if their pollution starts getting on your planet, that's a problem. It's a big, big problem. Because who's going to take care of your planet? No one else. That's your responsibility. You need to take care of yourself, and that sometimes means getting rid of toxic people from your life. And this guy clearly to me thought that, like, I owe him some kind of explanation. I owe him, some kind of reconciliation for why I kicked him out of my Dungeons and Dragons game a few years ago. So anyway, he tells me to, curses out a bunch, says that I need to acknowledge what I did to him, and then says, also, you got me addicted to Destiny. Do you want to play Destiny? I'm not kidding. He literally said, also, you got me addicted to Destiny 2. That's the worst thing you ever did. So anyway, here's my gamer tag if you ever want to run me through a raid. This guy was seriously asking for a freaking carry. After he curses me out, he's asking me for a Destiny raid carry. I'm not kidding, guys. I was working at this time, and there were other people around me, so I was trying to repress my laughter, but I'm not gonna lie, guys, that was the funniest thing I've ever read in my life. This guy curses me out, says this hurt like hell, he felt betrayed and crap, and then ends it off with, by the way, bro, want a game? Not only want a game, want to run me through a raid? As if I'm going to take a few hours out of my life to run him through Last Wish or King's Fall or something. Like, oh my god, dude. Like, amazing. Incredible. I respond with, I'm working, period. And then that's it. I don't say anything else. And he gives a thumbs up, and I thought that was the end of it. And maybe I was kicking the can down the road. By the way, it is storming like hell out there. Crazy thunderstorm. So it's very ominous. You guys can't hear it. Maybe you can't hear it, but it's very ominous right now as I'm telling this story. But I thought that was the end of it. How naive and foolish I was, because a couple months after that... Wait, was it a couple months or... No, not a couple months. Sorry, I got the timeline wrong. No. He wished me happy birthday a couple weeks later, and then a couple months later, went back to the subject of, what was going on, what was it? He was like, I want to beat a dead horse, but I legitimately have no idea what happened. And I was like, okay, I thought we had this conversation, but clearly you don't remember or something, so I'll explain it again. And this is what I said, verbatim. I didn't enjoy your presence for a variety of reasons. You acted very bitter and at times rude. Playing with you was triggering my anxiety. Saying that was true. That's true. What I said there was true, but that was a mistake. I should not have said that, because you bet that he immediately leapt on that as something he could take advantage of. I tried to explain, but you didn't listen. It took a while, but I realized it wasn't a healthy dynamic. It is what it is. I don't hold any ill feelings towards you, but I'm not rushing to rekindle friendship either. It is what it is. What's done is done. Like, I am not rushing to rekindle our relationship. And of course, like the brilliant person he is, he responds with, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for acting the way I did. Honestly, I'm sorry. There's a bunch of fluff, but basically, I made you uncomfortable and anxious, and you had every right to not have me at your game anymore. And, that, and said, honestly, I am sorry. And then follows it up with, that being said, which is but with more letters. And you guys know what I've said before. You know what? You guys know what I've said. Anything someone says before the word but doesn't really count, does it? So, yeah, goes on. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up my phone a lot. I just don't want to like misremember, and I'm trying to keep track of my thoughts by using the actual messages. But, you know, basically he was saying, like, we were close friends, which is just completely. Look, I'm sorry. This is going to sound really mean, but I did not consider this person a close friend. We played D&D together, and sure, he was in my circle of people that I hang out with, but were we like best buddies? No. I think we went to a haunted house this one time, and then that's it. Like, we were not close friends. We were not best buds for life or anything like that. Like, and again, even if that was true, like, again, people change. Sometimes, like, even if you have a best friend, sometimes people become toxic over time. And I was dealing with this guy's crap for a while. Like, there was a long time where I was not happy to have this person in my life. It became very frustrating. And therefore, I did what I think a person should do. And I no longer had this person in my life anymore. I was like, you know what? We're splitting off. We go our separate ways. But clearly, this, doesn't matter. Basically, he said, like, I guarantee I would have tried to fix this problem if I was given a chance. Like, dude, I gave you 10,000 chances. I gave you freaking chances, man. I gave you chances. Everyone at the table was giving you chances. One more chance probably would not make any more difference, especially given how much this guy hated criticism and hated losing. Like, the fact that this person is coming back at me years later to tell me that I owe him reconciliation, I owe him explanation, I owe him this, I owe him that. I'm sorry, man. I don't owe this person anything. I don't owe you anything. It's been years, dude. Like, I'm sorry, but it's over. What's done is done. Even if you feel in the pit of your stomach that I owe you the world, it doesn't matter. I have not seen you in years. I haven't thought about this person since I made that video in 2021. And by that point, the story had already been old. It was already old hat when I made that 10,000 subscriber video. And since that 10K subscriber video more than a year ago, I had not thought of this person. So, yeah, I was like, dude, no. After he sends me like an extended rant, he also blames me for, breaking his social life and resulting in other friends distancing themselves from him. And I was just like, okay, at that point, that's when I was like, all right, you can yell at me all you want and blame me for whatever, but my friends have autonomy. They can make their own decisions on who they want to hang out with or who they want to be friends with. They are not robots that follow my every command. And I certainly didn't command them to split off from this person. I understand that when you're an adult, it's hard to have friendships. Like, it is. And so when you lose friendships, it hurts. Like, I get that. It hurts. But again, I cannot be responsible for a person who is making me uncomfortable, who is not helping my anxiety issues, who sucks. It's not my responsibility. I feel like I have to explain this a dozen times because really, these messages got to me, guys. Like, it was nonstop. I'm summarizing greatly, but I'm talking paragraphs of text. All manipulative. Like, obviously looking back on it. But at the time, they were getting to me, guys. It got to me because I was like, am I really that evil? Like, did I destroy this person's life? No, I didn't. They made their choices. They acted the way they acted, and they reaped the consequences for those actions. That's not my fault. But at the time, like, I was steadfast in my belief that this wasn't my fault, but it was wavering. And you can still see, like, now I'm getting nervous. Like, I'm shaking a little bit because, yeah, this still is clearly a touchy subject for me. I didn't realize this about myself. Maybe this is something I need to talk about with my therapist. But yeah, this is clearly still a touchy subject for me. But yeah, I told this person, like, I don't control how anyone else perceives you. That's not in my power. And then I said, I'm working again, period. I'm sorry if that comes off as really sarcastic, but, I'm in that mood. But basically, he kept on going by saying, like, you never gave me proper closure or explanation. I learned about your problems from someone else. You should have been more clear with me and all this. I'm just like, oh my God. Again, even if you think I made some horrible mistake in the way I communicated the fact that I didn't like this person, frankly, this person, it's been years. It has been years now. Again, like, what's done is done, dude. Like, clearly, I mean, I don't know if this person thought that my feelings toward him would have softened, but, like, time does not change the way I feel. Like, I still feel like I was manipulated, and I still feel manipulated. Like, these messages are blatantly manipulative, even if this person doesn't realize it. So, yeah, that sucks. I believe the day after, 5 days later, 5 days later, comes back at me and says that I caused him long-standing trauma by kicking him out of my D&D game. I caused him long-standing trauma. And this is where, oh my God, like, I was telling the truth when I said that, my anxiety was not being helped by his presence. But I should not have said that, because he weaponized that mental health point against me so hardcore, saying that I was triggering his anxiety now, that I made him feel depressed, that I did this to him. And that is my responsibility. I cause long-standing trauma. My God. I responded very bluntly. If you need help with trauma, seek a therapist. Putting that responsibility on me is not going to help you. And then he's got the balls. He's got the balls to say, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not putting any of this on you. Then what are all of these? I'm sorry if I made a really loud yelling noise. What are all these paragraphs for then? If you're not putting responsibility on me, what is this whole thing for? Huh? Think of that? Clearly not. Good Lord. Like, sorry, I'm trying to check the time, but I'm realizing I don't have my glasses. I don't know how long I've ranted about this. I think it's been a while. Hopefully I don't run out of time on this camera. But yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with with the messages, because at this point we're doing a back and forth. And I very bluntly said, like, you're not entitled to any closure or explanation from me. All right, we're done. It's over. It's been years. It's over. Stop. Leave me alone. And if you're wondering, like, oh, why didn't you block this guy? I was legitimately scared that if I blocked him, there would be escalation. Like, I'd rather be able, this might be like another logical fallacy, but I'd rather be able to keep track of what this guy is thinking and saying and have a line of communication, rather than blocking him and not knowing what he's thinking or how he feels about me. Like, I don't know if he will escalate if I do that. And frankly, even though these messages are making me feel anxious, I can deal with that. I can survive that, but the anxiety I would feel from not knowing what this guy is thinking, not being able to communicate with him, that would make me feel worse. I don't know if that makes any sort of sense, but it makes sense in my brain. So, yeah, there you go. But yeah, he ends off by saying, like, it pains a bunch of stuff. Again, like, I'm paraphrasing hard, but it pains me how much of an afterthought this is to you, and how much emotion is tied for me, how little you will budge or show emotion or engage. I thought I was talking to a friend. I should not have thought like that. I'm sorry, dude, but he's right. I'm not his friend. He is correct. I have not seen this person in years, not thought about them in a hot minute, and frankly, I didn't like them even when I was in the same room as them. All right, so in summary, this sucked. This whole situation was bad. It was not fun to deal with, and it all ended when I finally just said, dude, what do you want? What do you want out of this? I know what he wants. He wants me to apologize, which I'm sorry is not going to happen. I do not think I did anything wrong here. I got a toxic person out of my life. That was it. That's all that it is, and it's done now. It's over. And eventually, he responded with, "Oh, like clearly I'm still holding on to the past, and clearly you're not going to do anything about this, so guess it's done." And then he tried to get the last word in, but I wouldn't let that happen. So I ended it off by just saying farewell, because of course I did. That's my thing. So yeah, this whole thing, it sucked. It really did suck. I thought that the situation was done, but it showcases, and I wanted to tell the story because the original horror story that I told in 2021, that story was not too bad. That I thought was a very realistic horror story that I think many of you may come across. Main character syndrome, someone who doesn't like losing, somebody who's acting entitled at your table, somebody who the other players don't like. That is pretty, not necessarily mundane. It sucks, but those are things that you may encounter. But often we will read horror stories that go crazy, absolutely insane, and it makes you think like, oh wow, how could this escalate from just a D&D game? And I'm here to say, like, guys, it can absolutely escalate. I mean, this guy was straight up messaging me paragraphs about how I caused him long-standing trauma. And frankly, I'm sorry, but I think he was manipulating me. I think he was trying to manipulate me to get some kind of apology, because I just don't think this guy has the capability of realizing that at the end, this was not my fault. The actions that were taken at the table were his own. He made his choices. He acted the way he acted, and I responded by not having him in my life anymore. That's all that there is. And I am not going to take responsibility for ruining, claim for him. He claimed I destroyed his social life, and I got all of our mutuals to stop being friends with him. Again, that's not in my power. And the fact that he's blaming me for that's what made me go gloves off. Like, I was not happy when he said that at all. That really annoyed me. Because, yeah. I don't think I need to explain it, but yeah, that was bad. I mean, I'm never going to complain about an RPG horror story post being rambly again, because damn, this was rambly. But we made our way through it. There you go. That's my horror story. A little bit worse than I thought it would be. I have a bunch of minor horror stories, but I want to talk about this one. If for some reason this guy is watching this, I obviously still hold no malice. Like, I don't wish ill upon this person. I just don't want to be their friend anymore. I just want them to leave me alone. I just want this to be over. Like, that's it. I just want this to be done. I wanted to get this off my chest. I wanted to use the story as like a way to illustrate, how things can escalate, how things can get out of hand really quickly, even when you don't expect it. Even from something as simple as kicking someone out of a D&D game. But at the end of the day, that is not reason for you to not protect yourself and take action to, protect yourself and your friends. Like, if you need to split off from somebody who is being toxic and who is hurting you, do it. All right, do it. You need to do it. All right, it is important to do it. It's going to suck. There's going to be bits that aren't fun. This is a great example. But you need to take action, because if you don't, action will be taken upon you, and it's not going to be fun, to say the least. I do not regret what I did. I do not regret at all getting a toxic person out of my life. Again, don't hold any malice towards this person. I doubt that you can find this person from just the name Wizard and the fact that they're a guy who has an Instagram. It's a pretty wide pool of people, so I don't think you can find this person, but don't even try. Like, I think it's impossible, but don't even try. All right? This person hopefully has now moved on with their life, as will I. I just wanted to get this off my chest, because clearly it still makes me a little bit nervous, but, hopefully this story helped to illustrate some of the things that could escalate in a D&D game, even as something as innocuous as a D&D game, and I hope it serves as a lesson in getting toxic people out of your life. Don't let this discourage you. If you have a problem player at your table who is hurting you or the other players in any way, have a discussion, talk about it, but if that doesn't work out, gone. That's the way it is. It is what it is. But yeah, that's the end of this episode. Whew, this one was pretty long, but hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy it, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tips series, where we cover DM tips for both well, not DM tips, but just general tabletop tips for DMs and players, old and new. When my actual play rolls around, that series is going to be taking a bit of a long rest, so enjoy it while it's here. It's not going to be gone forever, but while that show is airing, it's going to take that Sunday slot. So, enjoy it while it's still actively going. It will come back, but it will be a while, so, have fun there. But anyway, while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more about content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. It is what it is, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Oh my god. I burped on the farewell. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.